Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
All right, well, good to be with everyone. And so where we're at in our teachings is this path of enlightenment, the path of awakening, also path of liberation. Within the Lam Rim, these stages of the path, there's a series of teachings to really foundationally understand, well, who we are, how we live, what causes suffering, what causes well-being, all the way up through full stages one can embark upon to achieve full enlightenment. And we present the teachings with 4 motivations in mind. So we have some new people, so it's kind of nice to go over that briefly. And many people are sitting here, whether online or in person or at Buddhist teaching, simply because you'd like to live a better life, like to suffer less, be a better human. Don't know about all that Buddhist stuff, but here it's kind of cool. That Dalai Lama is kind of all right. And so it's kind of interesting. And now a lot of modern Western psychology is really based on Buddhist principles, things like cognitive behavioral therapy and so forth, basic understanding. So there's a lot of things that we can glean from that can help us just engage in life in a healthier, more meaningful way, without any belief system that's driving us religiously or spiritually, just understanding the dynamics of how we live. And that can fit into whatever our path is. Then the other motivation that's typically taught within the Lam Rim is that I would like to live a life that's meaningful, and as this life continues beyond death, that I continue to have good lives. So these teachings being, rising in Asia and Tibet and India and so forth, like reincarnation was just normal. Like that's, of course, everybody's reincarnated. It's, like it's the water you swim in. It's just how you're brought up. So it just makes sense. So they're sitting around thinking, especially as you get older, I better be good, And very similar to Christianity, where heaven if I'm good, or hell if I'm bad. And so a lot of people, start thinking, well, I want to make sure that I engage in a meaningful life and I continue to have good karma, good surroundings, environment, and my life continues, I'll be okay. Next level is I would like to be free of all suffering. I'd like to achieve nirvana, I'd like to not be caught up in this whirlwind of stuff that it's called samsara, become what they call an arhat, just free from all this suffering, no more rebirth stuff, we don't have to do all that, become awakened. And then the 4th would be complete Buddhahood, and so that would be a bodhisattva path. And so what's nice about these teachings is we can utilize the same fundamental things to be a better human being, have a good life, have less suffering. When you die, live a good life. We can go all the way to, well, the next life's going to be pretty cool too, to freedom and so forth. And we're going to find that the skills that are provided, teachings, will hit us at whatever level we're at, whichever motivation. And so we'll approach them from all 4 of those angles. And the point is always to just take what's useful. Buddhism fundamentally is about truth. And so what's freeing is truth. And last week we tapped into one of the primary causes of suffering is misunderstanding. I just don't see things clearly. Talked a lot about that. Unknowing. But here is ignorance, that I really misunderstand myself, my experience. I don't know better. And so I engage in the world in ways that I grab on to people, places, and things as though they can actually provide me the lasting happiness and well-being I want, despite all evidence to the contrary. It's funny how sticky that idea is. I can have all that stuff and be unhappy. It's kind of weird. I can worry about losing it. I can lose it and then somehow still be happy. And other things happen. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So the main point, though, of all Buddhism is to see accurately yourself, your experience, reality, and that's what liberates you. So we never have to adopt a belief system that doesn't fit. The point is, what's true? What's real? How's this work? And so that's always the attitude to approach teachings. Check them. See if it makes sense. So having said that, last week we got into the 6 root, often called the 6 root poisons. These are the main afflictions that create all the mental and emotional suffering that we get to experience in life. How fun is that? And they start with 3, which is ignorance, attachment, and aversion, sometimes called anger. And then the next 3. And so we talked a bit about that, but we're going to go through them a little bit now. And by the way, I love to have more of a dialogue than just me talking. So at any point, if you have a question or a comment, feel free, if you're online, to dive in. And if you're here, Laura has a microphone. It's helpful to use that so that people online can hear you. All right, so we're at the 6. And last week, we did ignorance, right? And so now we're going to get into attachment. Okay, attachment. How could that possibly cause problems? Yeah, and this is actually one of the funny misperceptions about Buddhism. If you were to take any Buddhist class, you're in college or something, they'll say, what's the cause of all suffering? And pretty much everyone will say desire or attachment. Like that's the pat answer. But it's not. It's the misunderstanding, the ignorance that gives rise to the attachment. And so that's really important to remember. Because if you misunderstand that, it cost me, I'm trying to think, I don't know, maybe 7 years of my life. So I picked up my first Buddhist book and I read this and I'm reading Buddhism. I'm like, man, this totally makes sense. Man, this is awesome. Boy, totally alive. I'm learning this stuff. I know it's like to start. I'm doing this good. My journey was great. And then I read this thing about desire and I was like thinking, wow, that means that you're just going to have no feelings, like no desire, no drive, no joy, just flat, And I'd worked hard to finally have some emotions. And I was like, man, like even feeling bad felt good because I could feel it, And I was like, so I put that away. Not understanding. There's healthy desire. There's real healthy drives to be helpful and be kind, to have meaningful lives, to engage in our families, our relationships. If it's based in wisdom and understanding, then it's very helpful. And so that misunderstanding, I think, gets a lot of people in trouble. Because actually, these 6 are technically on the core of the foundation of the first noble truth, which is the truth of suffering. So everybody's like, man, those Buddhists, they're only talking about suffering. Yeah, that nice house, and I'm going to tell you how to suffer in it. Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound fun. And but if I actually understand things that create unnecessary suffering, I can stop doing them and have more joy. So how about a desire to not suffer? It's a pretty good desire. So, attachment then arises from this self-grasping, this idea of how I exist, in this confused way. And this attachment arises towards objects that we find attractive and pleasing. You have a dopamine release, maybe. The object could be external, such as a person, food, or music, or internal, like knowledge or experiences. Some people really get very attached to that. There's an element of exaggeration involved. The mind views the object as more wonderful than it really is, and may even project qualities that aren't there. This leads us to crave the object, seeing it as essential for our happiness and wanting to not be separated from it. Our mind usually fabricates stories and fantasies about the object and our relationship to it, deepening the attachment. The teachings say that attachment is like an oil stain that has soaked into the cloth and is thus quite difficult to overcome. Think of some examples of people and things that you're attached to and check. Do you think you view them correctly or in an unrealistic way? And so the key here, right here at this bottom line, there's an element of exaggeration. I highlight that. Involved. So we can pretty easily see where this is going to cause a lot of suffering, right? I mean, think about the things you're attached to, if you don't have them. And how much suffering goes into that? I need this to be happy. I need this person in my life. I need this really cool car with the four-wheel drive thing, with those seats, man. I need my garden to grow and be like that, to be well. I need to be able to do my activities, to be happy. I need. And we start to look at our lives. If you notice in your life how many times you really craved something, worked for it, got it. I was thinking about our vacation in Ladakh. We got to go to Ladakh a couple of years back. It's amazing. Could I have survived without it? Probably. I have. Have I thought about it every day since? Nope. The picture popped up on my little Facebook thing. It said, yeah, you were here. Actually, Laura, you're in the Leh Palace. Yeah. So I was like, looking at that going, that was fun. I'm married to her. That's pretty cool. But, could I have lived with her without that? And how much do I think about it since then? And then we start thinking about all these experiences we've had in our life, and then how's the novelty wear off? How's the novelty wear off? It's the old saying, man, I just can't live without that person. 6 months later, man, I just can't live with that person. There's a whole lot of joy going into it. We're going to get married, and there's a whole lot of relief, and I'm going to get divorced sometimes. And, and friendships and things change, and, who we become and how we become changes. And we start to, build these stories about, I'll be happy if, I'll be happy when. And then we get the if. And then I can solve stress. Why is that? I can be happy, if this works out. And then I can solve worry and fear. And then I might even get everything I want. Let's just go hypothetically, And then we worry about losing everything we got. Because then I wouldn't be happy. And then there's this really fascinating thing is that we adjust to our level of comfort, how I used to live and how I'm living today. I got a few more things, and going back in any way becomes very painful. But it's all these exaggerated qualities that these external things are the source of my mental, emotional well-being. And I have no idea that there can be another opportunity. I have a friend, double check if he's online. Yep. So, graduating college, worked hard for this. Great student. Had a job offer, already ready. He was all set, even before he graduated. And, this is the plan. Got the kid, got a partner, got the little place, graduate, job. And then, actually he's graduating tomorrow. But job's not there anymore. And just the, he called me, we had a chat. And we can just see that, wow, this is what was going to make it all okay. A lot of suffering, because it's not there anymore. And you put so much work, energy. And then as we talked, we go, well, in that particular field, aren't there lots of other jobs? Turns out there are. It's a high demand, right? So did I just lose this thing that was going to be wonderful, or did I just open 10 other doors I didn't even know about? Which I think as they're investigating actually pay a little more. But, the pain, right? The emotional pain of, this was the plan, this was the thing. And so we can start to really see attachment. And, one of the fun little examples we had in the past, which Rebecca really enjoys, is, your favorite coffee cups. And so we had this practice of, I just told everybody for a week, just drink out of the coffee cup you don't like. And just watch the resistance, I had a practice, I still do. I just kind of open the cupboard and I just grab the first one there. Fortunately, we have a lot that are the same now, so it's a lot easier. But when you like it, it's just a cup, right? It's just a cup. Well, actually, Sam gave me this cup, so it's my favorite. But there's a whole story around this cup. I'm very attached to it. So this is not just a cup. So, right? So it's wow, I like this cup. And then, but if you do a practice like that, you'll just start to notice the resistance. Really, I gotta drink out of that one. There's my favorite cup. And you're just gonna notice, and we start getting all these little attachments, and then there's suffering over something as simple as having to not use that cup or this cup, let alone these sort of bigger events in our lives, the people in our lives, the friendships in our lives, and we don't think, we can live without them, or we really think something should turn out a particular way. It turns out a different way. And think about, would you have stress in your life if you were not attached to an outcome? If you weren't attached to an outcome, what would you be stressed about? I really don't want that to happen. That would be an outcome. I really want this to happen. This really needs to happen. If you look at stress, we carry a lot of it in our bodies. It's really detrimental to our health, well-being. And then what am I attached to an outcome? Well, because that's going to make me happy, or it's going to make me feel miserable. And then, so 1,000,000 times in your life, you had the outcome you wanted. Here we are. And then 1,000,000 times in your life, you had outcomes you didn't want. And here we are. And then you go through all the research, and it turns out the outcomes have very little lasting impact on your life or your emotional well-being. That's just evidence. That's just factual. That's just off the chart true. And we can investigate that. Look at just how many things have gone well in your life, and you could still be stressed about, but if this next thing happens, then we're going to be good. And it happens. And then it's Tuesday. Now I got some other things that I really need to happen. And so you can see how just this driving force of attachment which also, really when I think of aversion, it's attachment. I'm attached to that not happening. And so the stories get built up, the exaggerations come, the things that need to happen. And we can get so caught up in that, that having to sit next to someone you don't like for an hour can be torture. And it's just a human being sitting next to you. But it's that human being. Ugh, painful. Yeah. But where's the mental emotional pain coming from? It's in my mind. It's around the story I built up. Could drink, have another cup. And at the time, especially if it was something really, really difficult, right? Breakup, emotional breakup, a partner, and you just, the love of your life. And, probably never happened to you guys, but I got kicked to the curb. And, it hurts, right? I was fetal in the living room. Like 3 days. Oh, man. And, and in those moments, it seems so strong, right? And you have no idea what could be next. I had no idea at that time that later I would, become a Buddhist monk and live in India and have all these other parts of my life, become married now. And, but in those moments, right, you don't know all those things. You just have a story. I'll never be happy again. I'll be lonely, My friend Peter, that was it. He went through his divorce, and it was a healthy divorce. They did it lovingly, mindfully, caring for each other. And he's out with his friends one day after that. Big group of friends. They're all connected. And then he went home alone. And then the show came on that they used to watch together. Like an hour earlier, he was connected, engaged. And now he's in his bedroom alone. This show, miss her. And he had this thought. He's like, man, I'm lonely. I'll never have anyone. And he caught himself because he's a Zen Buddhist teacher, which is not why you catch yourself. It just happens to me. And he realized, man, an hour ago I was connected. Here I'm watching this thing and I'm having this emotional state. And it's all in, storytelling. And he told himself, he confronted it with reality, man. And so he started recognizing that it's not that she was gone, it's his mental and emotional state. That's the suffering, the attachment, the stories around it. He's remarried, has a lovely wife, and, a whole new life. Everybody's happier. She's got a partner. But think about attachment and start to go, wow, how much do I exaggerate versus what if I appreciated what I had? There's a lot less stickiness there. I really appreciate this cup. Thanks for giving it to me, Sam. It has a lid. Whoops, I'm going to knock it over, break it, and then I'd be sad. And so, try to find a love song that's healthy. Not an easy thing to do. I've been checking. We really build up. And so the trickiest part around attachment, and one that is, I think, really important to recognize, is the distinction between attachment and love, because they are not the same. Attachment limits your ability to love. When I'm attached to you, then I need you to be a certain way and make me happy in a certain way, and don't want you to leave me, and you don't do a lot of things I want you to do. And so when we become attached to our partners and our relationships and our friends, we've broken up over friends, I got someone in my life, who's friends with a guy for a long, long, long time, and they're just not friends anymore because he just stopped living up to the qualities of what he thinks his friend should be like. And attachment is, all about me. Love is about them, right? Do I love this person? Do I love my friends? Well, I want the best for you. I want love. I appreciate that we get to do things together, that we have this friendship. And it's very open. Attachment, it's pretty sticky, and then a lot of mental and emotional struggle there in relationships, at work, at home, friendships, kids, family. So attachment actually really inhibits love. But it seems like it's love, which is why we get all love songs. Couldn't live without you, and all that stuff. There's one of my old favorite country western songs, like Leave a Light On For You. It's like years go by, like every house on the lights lit up, the driveway's got lights, like he's waited 10 years, and, I think she does finally come back. It's all lit and it's back. But, there's 10, 12 years of suffering going on there. There might have been someone else, I don't know. It could have happened.
Hey, John, I have a question.
Oh, okay.
So,
thank you. You saved me.
Well, to dial it back to something a little more quotidian than love, how does one handle ambition? Here we are in our one precious life. We decide we want to do something, get something, achieve something. And I think built into that is some kind of attachment, an outcome, or a goal, or whatever. And what's a healthy way to navigate that in this context? Yeah, gotta do it.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Where are you at in that van?
I had to go to Ghost Springs today. Bayfield.
Oh, Bayfield. Okay.
Yeah, lovely little spot. Now I'm in Ghost Springs. So.
Okay, I was just there.
Oh, cool.
All right, so this is why I wanted to bring up the confusion around desire, ambition. I want to do something. I want to build a house. I want to, have a life. I'd like to have good friends. I'd like to live a meaningful life. And that's important. Without motivation, you were dead, basically. This body's just not going to move. And so then how about we get ambitious towards a meaningful life? And what are the qualities? What builds a meaningful life? And that's where we need some real clarity. What's a meaningful life to you? And then as I work in that direction, what are the types of things that I'll engage in that can support that? But a meaningful life isn't about the achievement, right? It's about how you achieved it. Somebody gives you a fancy old certificate or a big award or something you didn't earn. That doesn't mean much. But man, you worked hard for that thing, then, that means something. That means something. And so, but when I get the attachment to the outcome is that whether this happened, that makes me who I am. What makes you who you are is the effort you went to create it. Right? That's a meaningful life, is doing things that are meaningful. If my value as a human being is that it turns out the way I want it, that's A, not that meaningful, and B, I'm a prisoner of a lot of suffering. And so, I know you've owned your own business and done all that stuff, and you start there and you think, well, yeah, business goes this way or that way, but how'd you treat your employees? How did you show up and create the projects that you created? That's meaningful. And so the research on this shows again and again, again and again and again and again, living a life in alignment with one's values, doing things that are meaningful, virtuous, healthy, productive, contribute to society, with a connection, right, to others, is always going to be that source. So you can have a lot of ambition. We have, as a school teacher, I was very ambitious to have my students have a life beyond high school and get out of the tough neighborhoods that they grew up in. Very ambitious to show up and give my best. Some of them went to prison. Some of them went on to do amazing things. Is that helpful?
That is helpful. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, that's a good answer, because if you said no, I'd have to think up a whole new
No,
thing.
man. I was just trying to treat people poorly and get as much as I can get out of this deal. So, but thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, it was very helpful.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. So, these impulses around attachment versus appreciation, and the thing to pay attention is exaggerate qualities, and then, stress is going to be one of those big ones, because we're going to attribute so much to this thing, this event, the way it needs to be, and it's just so subtle. It happens all day long. I'm late to an appointment, a lot of stress. Being stressed will not get you there any quicker. I got news for you. Might even inhibit the process. So living reality. Okay, you're going to get there when you get there. It's better to be there a little calmer and, apologize for being late. But, we'll build up, how this should be or how others should be, and, how worked up we get. And attachment just drives us with all those stories. And so we can catch that, and I just like to appreciate. So a teacher, Lama Alan Wallace, he's on that side, right? Top man. I love how he breaks us down to reality. We think we have stuff like this is my cup. It's mine. Don't be eyeballing it. It's mine, okay? It's got a little lid. It's got this nice thin wall. It's tasty. It's got a little cool wooden handle. Is that wood? Maybe not. It looks wooden. Probably not. No. But if someone were to take this cup home, is it my cup? Probably not anymore. Especially they go give it to somebody else. Is it my cup? What makes it my cup? When you start realizing, what I think is mine. It's really a made-up concept, what's mine. It's because something's on a piece of paper. What's that? Possession's 9/10 of the law, right? And then there's a lot of loss because I lose my thing, mine. And so he says, it's probably more accurate to go, this cup is available to me now. What can I do? It's available to me now. May not be in the future, but it's available now. And so I want to take care of it and I want to appreciate it. It's available to me now. It may not be available to me in the future. And, our cars, our lives, you may have noticed things change. Change in our communities, change in all that stuff. And so really a deep appreciation for what is available now. And potentially, some really healthy thoughts about what could be available to me in the future if I do certain things. Might be available, might not. But what always matters is that we're going to have to look in the mirror at some point. And it's not all the stuff. It's not the people, not those outer things. How do I feel about me? How do I feel about me? And if my feeling about me is contingent upon others looking at me in a certain way, having certain things, and, having people see me a certain way, there's no security. There's no, I'm either doing pretty good above some others or pretty low because somebody else goes over it. And there's this constant drive of comparison in my life on external circumstances that give value to who I am. And there's no ability to just be okay with who you are, except through activities that you feel good about, the kind of person you want to be. And then we have peace, and then we have value. And, that's just true, right? We learned that since kindergarten. Yeah, I always think it'd be kind of interesting. Have someone just carry around their backpack all their college degrees and their awards and their certificates. Just show people, in case you didn't know. Yeah. My granddaughters have, there's a wall. They played sports, and they're all, I don't even know how many medals are hanging, because you get those little things, and so there's tons of them, hanging. Which, I appreciate them. They're not over the board. That's what you do. But I was just thinking, what if as an adult you just started? Don't you know who I am? Yeah, and it's pretty funny too, because sometimes people won't know who you are. And, well, don't you know? Or they'll talk to you in a way like, well, of course I'm so and so. Wow, why couldn't a human being just talk to us? And so that's really going to come from insecurity, and it's going to drive comparison. It's going to drive stress in relationships, value in how I interact with others. I used to live in Southern California in the sort of industry area where movies are made, things like that, Burbank. And I have some friends who are like child actors. And, that could be one of the saddest things in the world, because they're adults and they're like, I used to be somebody. Yeah. And it took them a long time to figure out they are somebody today again, And, we're all somebody right now. And we do a lot of good. And so exaggerating those qualities and limiting ourselves, very difficult. Here and Now Center has a hand up. That's awesome.
Hi, John. It's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
I had a question regarding grief. Like when we lose someone that we love, it's a natural response to grieve, to be sad, to miss them, to mourn. I guess the question is, deciding or distinguishing the difference between a healthy grief process versus attachment. Weeks go by, years can go by, and speaking just from personal experience, finding myself, having a wave of emotion up from missing, that particular entity. Just wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, grief, it's an interesting word, and we have a lot of, in the therapeutic community, stages of grief and words for grief. But at its core, the initial sort of strong emotion of grief is this like, I just can't accept this is happening. You get that news right off the bat, and it's right to the core, and there's a very little acceptance. I can't accept. It doesn't compute, right? You're not in my life anymore. I just lost a loved one. It just, and that facial emotion of grief, the physiological experience, just this profound, deep, it doesn't compute, can't accept. And then, that phases moves into what I would prefer to label as a deep sadness, a deep, profound sadness. And sadness is an expression of love. I'm missing this person. Loss, right? Sadness around loss. And so, for me, and I've had these experiences, I know loss well, is as loss arises, it's nothing to fight, need to change. I just get to value it, that it is, just the deep love and appreciation I have for this person. And there's no need to cure it. There's no need to change it, but rather appreciate the love, the depth of the love. And in that way, in my own experience, it's a pleasant sadness. It's really weird. The physiological sadness is there, but there's a deeper warmth that's available to me. And so I don't think of it as grief. I think of grief more as I just can't accept it. I think of deep, profound sadness as a much heavier expression of love. And so I appreciate the sadness and allow it to come and allow it to go. And in that way, I think it's really healthy and meaningful to, first place, we don't ever want to stuff feelings, and we don't need to manipulate feelings, emotions. They'll come, they go, but they're information. And so, that deep sadness that arises, it gets triggered. I like to really appreciate it as love. And that's not attachment. Attachment is that craving for them to be back in our life when they're not available anymore. Does that make sense? I know you're in a big room with a bunch of people, but okay, was that a thumbs up? Okay, yeah. So that's the distinction, that we can't go on with our life, but rather we carry it. And I'm gonna get all arising. Just with my mom. I would pick up the phone to call her, and she's not there anymore. It was just habit. I used to call her for certain recipes. Got this recipe, and pick up the phone. I got the phone in my hand, and she's not there anymore to call. And what I've learned, and the way I work with this, is that my mom lives through me all the time. She lives through me through when I cook that recipe. She lives with me with the lesson I have. She's in my blood. She's in my life. And every time I use words or lessons that she gave me, she lives through me. My mom lives through a lot of people. She touched a lot of people. And in that way, they're never gone. They're actually so much a part of who we are. That, people don't really leave now. Their physical body does. But, I am so much a product of her. And, and so that lives on. And so for me, I find that really meaningful. There's no loss. My teachers pass, their teachings are within me. They speak through me. So much. We're not independent. There's nothing independent about us. Everything I know is because of others. Everything I have is because his body was parents, I didn't create anything. I'm a mixture of all these people who are now part of who I am. And so, I don't feel loss in that sense. I do occasionally feel a warmth of sadness that I like to think of as love. Okay, I don't think we're going to get past attachment. So, any other things coming up for anybody? Anybody got an example of attachment that would be unhealthy?
And I just had an observation.
Okay.
And until you said it in so many words that despite all evidence to the contrary, we still think, we still become attached to things thinking they're going to, be the source of our happiness. And it occurred to me that just on a daily basis, multiple times a day, thousands of times throughout our life, we've had the opportunity to see that no matter what we get, that's not the cause of our happiness, but we still fall into that trap. And it seems like it goes beyond habit. I mean, why on earth can we not see that lesson and learn from it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's much more than habit. I mean, it is habits deep. I mean, there's a belief system too, but I actually think habit's bigger than the belief system.
It's just bizarre that we can be presented with this evidence just constantly and not figure that out.
Yeah, but we nailed it today, though, right?
Okay, this is it. This is the end of it.
Yeah, no more. We're done with that nonsense. Let's all make a pinky swear, okay? Yeah. Yeah, but that's, this habit, which we would call conditioning, this hardwiring sort of, but is changeable. And, if you think about how much of our life's really actually on autopilot, right? You and I can have this nice discussion right now, but that discussion won't be in my mind later when I'm getting attached to things and, craving things and doing those things. And then we start to realize how little actual free will we have within this mind-body experience, that this mind-body thing knows exactly how to feel good, like right now. I know exactly what I can do to feel good right now. And that other stuff takes a lot of time. It takes work. That takes effort. And I can get these pleasures. And so the big misunderstanding is that distinction between pleasure and genuine happiness, right? So that short-term stimulus, pleasure, the dopamine that comes and that feels good, I can get rid of this discontent pretty quickly, on demand. And this mind-body thing knows all that. It's been getting reward systems built since we were a little kid. Like when they gave you the good Gerber peaches instead of that, green pea stuff that Mom kept trying to get you to do. And, we started, this is good. That's not. This is good. This is not. And so this subconscious, this ongoing autopilot is always on, but our conscious mind is rarely on, right? That executive function decision-making process, the driver in the car is rarely there. But the car knows how to get where it's going, get what it, get the gas, do the things it wants to do. And it's so intrinsic, that undoing those takes time. And as you know, I've been harping a lot on the whole reward system, that we need to really allow ourselves to experience the reward of the good that we do, which, we suck at. Somebody compliments you, no problem. We're just, but just to take time and recognize our value and feel good about the good we do and restructure. So it takes time. So over time, you have noticed, right? You do that much less, right? And so, but it is so, if it was so easy, like logic has nothing to do with it, right? Logic has nothing to do with it. And that's why again and again, time and again, every morning, every day, bringing ourselves back to reality. And then mindfully, consciously noting me doing it again and recognizing it's not satisfying, viscerally, consciously, on purpose, then we start to get some realization that, that's a temporary pleasure. It's not, this lasting well-being that I'm seeking. But if I don't get the reward for that effort, then all that long, wonderful, liberated well-being, that's just a lot of work, man. I can feel pretty good right now, and the mind body knows that. And so we're up against that struggle of redeveloping this system, because it's so habituated, So even though I may cognitively know better, this mind-body thing doesn't know how to do better yet. It's still chasing it. Yeah. But we get better, yeah. Sound pretty bad, didn't it? And the thing is, as you start experiencing genuine happiness, it's just so much better than this. It's just so much better. It's just so much better. To look in the mirror, feel good about who you are, to have nothing to hide when you speak to people, to, have a values-based life and not have to compare yourself to anybody, to know that, wow, you got a lot to offer the world. It's so much better than the shiny object, But we need to consciously continue to grow and nurture those activities and those reward systems over time. Yeah, it is the undoing, of that entrenched, habituated prison. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Carl. I really wanted everyone to know how hard this is. All right, Ashley.
One thing that struck me was when you asked the question, would I have stress in my life if I wasn't attached to an outcome? Mm-hmm. I had an experience of that a while back where it was time to get the kids to school. We were running late. It was rushing around. I knew that we were going to be late. And all of that stress came up of, oh man, they're going to be late. I'm a bad parent because I'm bringing my kids to school late. But when I was able to step back and think, okay, we're not going to get there any sooner by stressing out about it. And it just made the whole trip to school so much harder. And the kids were stressed and I was stressed. So letting go of that, the next time it happened, I was able to say, wait a minute, I'm going to be late anyway. So why not just make it a pleasant trip and, focus on connecting with the kids on the way to school. And it made such a difference. It really was, we still got there late, maybe even a few minutes earlier because the kids weren't fussing but it was so much more peaceful. And, so yeah, I definitely experienced that and it was really interesting. Also, I have an attachment joke.
Oh man, I've been waiting for that.
It's not a very good joke. So
those are the best.
Why does an enlightened being have trouble with their emails?
Because they don't do attachments.
That's right. Yeah, they lost their attachments. I know, it was bad. Sorry.
Not bad. Yeah. I've heard a few of them. Yeah. So this is the opportunity this week is notice those attachments. Notice the stress. Is it that bad? And then, the more that we can consciously do, you just outlined it. You are aware of that whole process. And then the next time you had the capacity for a different choice. And that's the way we do it. We start noticing old habits pop back up. So we do it again and again. But this week, just, start noticing attachment, how it inhibits, need somebody to do this, need that to happen. I really want this outcome, not that one. And if you're up for it, drink out of a cup you don't like. He said, I know, that's too big a task. I mean, yeah. It just holds something. But man, the mind is such a funny place. Yeah, but this is the thing. And so this is how we undo it, though, is that we consciously, that's, this week, just, every day, is you start to notice how attachments are getting in my way versus appreciation and acceptance. And acceptance has nothing to do with approval. I don't like what's happening, but me trying to resist what is happening is only painful. When I'm in acceptance, now I've moved into doing something about it, Okay, looks like Alyssa can dive in here. Then we'll do announcements and we'll wrap her up. How you doing, Alyssa?
I'm good.
Good.
This is just a kind of a funny anecdote of attachment stuff that I'm dealing with actually in the moment. And you're talking about how ridiculous our minds can be as they wrap themselves around things that we want, that we know will only hurt. And so a few days ago, I bit into something that was extraordinarily hot and really burned the palate of my mouth, which I've done many times, but this time it's really bad to where I think I was starting to get a low-grade infection from it. Even with this pain, knowing that something that I was going to drink was going to hurt it even more, but wanting the drink so badly, I drank it anyway. Talk about attachment, right? Yeah, this sparkling water. The carbonation. Ow! Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway, just a little silliness.
Conscious torture.
Yeah. And very aware of, what I was doing.
Yeah.
Good thing for Tylenol.
I thought you were going to do something I would have done is take another bite. But you were healthier than that.
No. I did. Blew on it first a bit. No, yeah.
Thanks, Alyssa. Good
Anyway,
to wrap on.
And,
go ahead.
Sort of the opposite. The fires that happened a few months ago in Altadena, and I've got a couple of friends who lost everything.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she talked about, this one friend in particular, was how she never realized how important things like having a bed was, or a toothbrush, a pair of shoes, and the gratitude that she has developed over this whole experience. And she's one of the lucky ones. She has another place to live that a family member has offered her while they're figuring out how they're going to rebuild. Her situation is really quite remarkable. But during that time where she didn't have that and having to sort of scramble for any little thing, it really it revealed to her just how important these little tiny things are, and how difficult life can be without them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It does remind us that gratitude is the antidote to many afflictive mental, emotional states. Yeah.
Thank you, John. This was wonderful.
Thanks, Alyssa. All right. For those who care to, just dedicate the merit of our time together, wisdom for the benefit of all beings. Again, only if you do it. It's nice to take a moment to recognize that what we do makes a difference. A lot of things we could have done on a Wednesday night, we chose to engage in teachings that might help us be a better human being, to improve ourselves and the world that we live in, to live more wisely with care and compassion towards ourselves and others. And the ripples of the impact of our time together go out into the world. We do hope that our intention and aspiration, that it does benefit others, that they find liberation from their sufferings, and that we can extract some bits of wisdom from our time together that we can apply in our own lives to liberate ourselves from the afflictive states that trap us, and instead engage in practices that liberate us and cultivate genuine happiness, well-being, and ultimately complete freedom, so we can be of greatest benefit to all. And with that in mind, those who care to will do the formal dedication. By this merit may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, now you're born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.